Something else that at least I think that we could rock is this trade idea of it has been floated around about the Portland Trailblazers recently. It sounds, I don't know, maybe like a video game, a 2K kind of trade at first glance, but I think that it's realistic, and if it happened, oh, man, I'd love it. I think it would rock Rip City in the best possible way, and that would be the acquisition. This has been thrown around by the Zach Lowe podcast of Domantas Sabonis. Yes, that Sabonis, the son of Arvydas, to the Portland Trailblazers. Danny, I have been, in my mind, after him for years for the Blazers roster. Zach Lowe's podcast threw this out, I believe, on Wednesday earlier this week. He and John Hollinger were tossing around potential deals that basically this is the landmark or the landscape of the deal here. DeAndre Ayton, Matisse Thybulle, and the 2025 pick for the Blazers this year, and then their 2027 pick. And in return, Portland gets Domantas Sabonis back. I love it, but I don't know. I might be crazy. Tell me what you think.
Not only no, a hell no.
But why?
Sabonis is a good player, but he's a fundamentally flawed player. And I've been in the breaks. I've been talking with Blazers fans on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because there's rumors out there, and they are founded. I've been talking to folks for really the last week who said the Knicks are pushing basically everything not named Jalen Brunson in for Giannis.
Okay.
And if you recall, before the Giannis news kind of became public, I was mentioning that if Giannis asks out, it's going to be to New York. And at the time, it was not necessarily New York in the sense of the Knicks. It was the Nets because they've got all the salary cap space, and it was easier to make this happen. But there's a similarity between both the Knicks and the Kings here. They both have bigs with fundamental flaws. Neither Karl Anthony Towns nor Domantas Sabonis are good defenders. And in the NBA, if you are not a good defender as a big, you better be the most transcendent scoring, creating big on the face of the planet. You better be Joel Embiid or you better be Nikola Jokic. Because the ask of the big in the NBA today is rim protection first. Rim protection, rebounding, and basically kind of whatever else they get out of you is gravy. Yes, they would like if you can stretch the floor. It's an added bonus. It adds another wrinkle. Yes, if you can be a mismatch guy who can put the ball down on the floor and be creative. Or you can be a guy like Jokic, Jokic light and Sabonis, where the offense revolves around you in the middle of the floor as a great playmaking hub. But he's not big enough to really be a 5, but you can't play him as a 4. Like we saw them try to do the too big thing in Indiana with Miles Turner, who is a floor spacing 5. But now you've got Sabonis who, while he moves well for his size-ish, when he's tasked with guarding, the 4s of today, that's not an ask that he's going to stand up against. So now you're forced to play him at the 5, and he's not giving you rim protection. And Sabonis, as good as he is, every team he goes to, they're good, but they're limited because of like how you have to build around him. It's the same thing with Karl Anthony Towns. The last 2 teams that have had Karl Anthony Towns have realized we can't play him at the 5. We had to go get Rudy Gobert in Minnesota. And then it was, we need to play Mitchell Robinson because he's just not good as a defender. And looking at where Karl Anthony Towns is, among players who contested 100 shots in the paint this year, he was 199th in field goal percentage allowed. Basically, allowed 60% at the rim, or in the paint. Excuse me. Let me go ahead and pull up Sabonis right now. Sabonis is 117th, allowing 56%.
Okay.
In the paint, not at the rim. This is just in the paint. So you are well behind the 8 ball when you're talking about that. Just as a comparison's sake. The Blazers' current center is number 2 in Donovan Clingan. Number 2 in the entire NBA in paint field goal percentage.
Why not go Twin Towers?
Because now you're putting Domantas Sabonis in the exact same position that you did in Indiana, where he's now tasked with guarding 4s. And then you're pushing Denny Avdia from the 4 to the 3. And if you're doing that, now you're taking Denny Avdia's advantages out. Because when he's at the 4, let's say Domantas Sabonis is on the Kings, and for whatever reason the Kings are playing Sabonis at the 4.
Okay.
Who do you trust in an advantage situation there? Do you trust Denny Avdia or do you trust Domantas Sabonis? Because Denny Avdia, if Sabonis is backing him up, Denny's strong as a truck. I'll take that matchup. Is Sabonis going to get the better of him sometimes? Sure. But
that's close.
But if I'm asking Domantas Sabonis to deal with Denny Avdia getting downhill all game, I'm going to take Denny Avdia.
But man, I see a path for it to work. Like if you take DeAndre Ayton out of the roster, no minutes for him, and you plug in a Domantas Sabonis, Portland 9-1 back in that stretch in February, January, whatever. They were a really good defensive team in that stretch.
That was being anchored by Donovan Clingan.
Exactly. And I know you're saying that moving everybody down would just disadvantage Denny a little bit and doing Domantas basically dirty the same way that he did.
Now Denny's guarding threes.
What's the problem with that? He has the speed.
Because he's better as guarding fours.
So why not pick and choose matchups? Why not have Domantas even moving out? He's the stretch 4-5. Why not have him defending a three?
Because now you're paying $40 million a year for a guy that you have to tweak everything around. That does like when you look at the NBA right now because of the current CBA. And I think Sabonis is a very good player, but I also think that the ability to build around him is very difficult. Whether it's Sabonis, whether it's Karl Anthony Towns, whether it's Zach LaVine, whether it's Michael Porter Jr., these guys that are making $40+ million, where the limitations of their game can be so incredibly drastic. Those inhibitions and those limitations are huge. Look at the teams that are in the NBA Finals. They have guys that are multidimensional that you're not limited around. They're very pliable.
Yeah.
And depth and that pliability, that matters so much right now in the NBA. And the guys that in the past where you just kind of automatically gave a max or a near max to the Zach LaVines, the Sabonises, the Michael Porter Jr.'s, the Karl Anthony Towns, I am very interested to see what that looks like over the next 5 years in the NBA because I don't think any of those guys like that are going to get those deals going forward because of how prohibitive they can be to team building. Like the story coming about around the Knicks chasing Giannis is, okay, what are the Bucks like? What would they want with OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges or Karl Anthony Towns? You're talking about a team that's rebuilding. Those are guys that are in prime and going to go do something. And that doesn't really help them right now. And it puts them in the same position of like, okay, let's just say it's a straight 1-to-1 transaction. You know, they got those three guys, blah, blah, blah. And it's not how it would work. I'm just using this as an example. Well, now what do? Now they're pigeonholed in how they have to build around that going forward. Yeah. And if you're trying to actually make this deal for the Knicks, you have to try to send Karl Anthony Towns to another destination or to the Bucks. I don't think the Bucks are particularly enamored with Karl Anthony Towns. I don't think many teams are. And so now what can you extract from another team that you send to the Bucks to make this happen? This Giannis to New York feels very reminiscent to Dame to Miami, where the prestige market with all the shine wants the thing, but doesn't have the necessary things to make it happen.
It's a little too out there.
And you're talking about it. Look, I love Dame, but Giannis is a better player all time. I don't think anybody's going to argue that.
No.
So you're talking about get a better player who is still younger than Dame, and we just came off a year where we finished third in MVP voting. So the ask is going to be more drastic. So the Knicks are going to need to find assets for Karl Anthony Towns. They wouldn't have any problem getting assets for OG Anunoby. Not at all, because I think he's a very wide market.
They have pieces.
They're not going to get the 5 first-round picks that they gave up for Mikal Bridges.
Hell no.
Because of the year that he had.
Well, that was stupid.
Well, I still think Mikal's a very good player. But
I agree, yeah.
But like they're like, oh, they could do this if they just do this, and this. And I'm like, what team in NBA history has been able to make the 7-team trade? Like, that's the thing is like, it's as much as like, well, if they just do this and then they just this, and it's like the second you start adding all of these layers to it, now more teams are going to want their pound of flesh, and they're going to feel like they want this out of this, and this out of this, and this out of this. And the more teams you bring into it, the more unlikely it is to occur. And as far as getting Sabonis to Portland, it felt like, I heard Lowe and Hollinger talking about this. It just felt like, can we find a landing spot for Sabonis?
Yeah.
And it was like, well, Portland works because we don't care about them.
No, I hear you. And it is.
And again, I like Sabonis. I think he's a good, fun player, but I think he severely caps what you can. I think both him and Kat severely cap what you can do with team building, not because of their financial restrictions, but because of the actual playing circumstances that you have to get perfect around them.
I mean, I hear you with Lowe throwing it out. It is kind of still like that ancillary thing for the Blazers that I wish that they would get a little bit more respect in the trade markets and, national media. It just always seems like the Blazers are like the stepping stone or just getting kicked to the side, facilitating trades for other teams. But this looked to me like, I get it. It's just, try to find something for him. Get rid of him wherever. But Portland fits just because I do feel like I understand you don't see the pieces there with this team. I do. And I feel like Portland as weird as the vibe is with this team right now, for sale, extending a coach that not necessarily, at least to me, showing that he actually earned that extension, to turn down a player that's 7th and 8th in MVP voting, 10th in DPOY voting a couple of seasons ago, 3rd team All-NBA twice. Like, I might just be getting hung up on the accolades, Danny, but like,
he's a good player.
This is the type of the player that the Blazers season tickets would sell immediately. This is the kind of something that fans could get behind.
I don't care.
Really?
I don't care. I don't care what they can get behind or what they can't get behind, because I want a team to build towards a title, and I think there's a very, very real ceiling if Sabonis is on your roster. And there's a reason why the Pacers made the trade that they did. There's a reason why the Minnesota Timberwolves made the trade that they did. There's a reason why Karl-Anthony Towns is being shopped right now. Players like that, as good as they are, they are very limited. They're very good at what they do.
Yeah.
Cat is maybe the best 3-point shooting big man in the history of the game. He's not the best shooting big man. That's Dirk. But, there's somebody on Twitter right now. He says 25 points per game or 42% from 3, and he's not running the offense. Cat, being surrounded by good defenders, has gotten to 2 straight conference finals, but you make him sound like he's not a winning player with useless advanced stats. Okay. Why are the last 2 teams looking at getting rid of him then? Why did one get rid of him, and why is the other one looking to make another move?
I mean, the Knicks really wanted him from what we've heard, though, and I feel like
they wanted to get off of Julius Randle, and they needed to make something move, and there was only so many avenues they could go down. And Julius Randle's another one of those players.
But Cat paired so much better with Jalen Brunson. If I'm Leon Rose, it's like,
did he though? Because there's a lot of times when Cat wasn't getting used because he didn't fit directly with Jalen Brunson, because Jalen Brunson's a scorer, not a creator.
Well, that might be on Thibodeau, and maybe why he's not there.
Or it's on the roster that doesn't make sense. And if you go through enough teams, maybe he's just not good enough.
All right. I see your point. And then back to Sabonis, man. Like, I might just be biased with this. I might be the guy that got an Arvydas Sabonis jersey for Christmas from my wife 7 years ago and started crying because I am such a diehard Blazers fan and I long for the vibe of nostalgia. But I legitimately look at this guy and think that he could fit into this lineup and make them, at some point with a couple other pieces, a championship contending team. I understand that you don't, and why, Danny. Damn it, I disagree, brother. I really disagree. It's okay. All right, I get it. Yeah. I love that trade. I think it would give this team direction. Call me nostalgic, but I love me some Sabonis. Sign me up yesterday.